So anyways, yeah, with what we got going right now on Bitcoin, right? The reason why we're looking at Bitcoin is because Bitcoin essentially tells the market, right, where we're going next. And in the first year of a 4-year cycle, Bitcoin always makes the moves and runs everything. So where are we right now with Bitcoin? We have a brand new 60-day cycle that started here on August 22nd. And then we had a high here, which is actually kind of rare, on day 7 of the 60-day cycle. The only other time we've had a day 7 or shorter cycle high was maybe less than 10 times, right? And in terms of day 7 itself, only a handful of times. So usually we don't get a high this early in the cycle, but clearly we have. So the next thing that we want to see is, okay, is Bitcoin going to go below the cycle low? And if it does on a daily close, then we tumble down. And the main thing that that's not like rocket science there. Like, yeah, that's obvious, right? We start going down and of course price is going to crash a little bit, right? The question is, how does that change over time, right? So the earlier that happens, the lower the price can go. And I'll tell you why this blue line is down here at about 21,500. But if we start breaking down below this 25,300 level, well before the midpoint of the 60-day cycle, which is day 30 of September 21st. So a day after the Federal Reserve interest rate meeting. And so, yeah, if we start going down there before then we have enough time in the cycle, right, before the midpoint of the cycle and all the way through the end of a 60-day cycle up to potentially September 21st at latest, or at earliest, the cycle low around October 6th. So we're mainly looking probably somewhere around here, like October 14th for a 60-day cycle low. And so, yeah, if we start breaking down earlier, then that low probably heads down towards 21,500. But if for some reason, right, Bitcoin decides, hey, I'm going to regain this trend line just a little bit going into the 60-day cycle midpoint, right? We're likely to stay under that 200-day moving average, and 98% likely because the cycle high is already in, unless we change the cycle low. That is possible, but that's, I would say, very, very rare that the price is going to act so uniquely different from previous cycles that it's going to have to adjust where the cycle low is. But that generally doesn't happen. So that means going into the midpoint of the cycle, we might peak up here. And if that happens, then yeah, it's going to take longer and it's going to be harder for Bitcoin to crash. And we could actually just come back down to where the cycle began, maybe get a wick just a little bit lower than the cycle low, right, at like maybe a 25,200 price or something like that, where we kind of go like this, and then we start a new 60-day cycle in October, and we start going back to the upside potentially, right? So that's probably this is the most bullish case, in my opinion, right now for where Bitcoin's price will go. So if you take that into account for Ethereum or for your favorite altcoin, that means any upside here going into the midpoint of the cycle or the Fed meeting, that's a good time, right? If an altcoin follows on a move there, to take a little profit, shave a little off, let it come back down, and buy lower. And if it only comes down to low 25Ks, great. You still have a good generational wealth buying opportunity. But if it does start going below that area, the sooner it does, the further down it can go. But if it only breaks down here past day 30, right, then we get a capitulation low somewhere closer to this line here of about 23,800. And you might be like, Charlie, you're just putting lines on the chart. What the hell? Why those two prices, right? So if we zoom out here onto Bitcoin's weekly chart and we turn off the drawing there and we take a look at these fib levels, essentially what we got going here is a Elliott wave, wave 1 off the 4-year cycle lows. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this is a full wave 1. So if you understand Elliott waves, you understood that. If you have never heard of Elliott waves, then you might be like, what's this gibberish this dude's talking about? we'll teach you in the course how to get involved and understand that, at least at a level so you're literate, right? But we have the end of the wave 1 there. Now we're looking for that end of the wave 2 before we go into a wave 3, which tends to be the most bullish. And we can go into the bullish part a little bit later. But
you mean people can make money?
Oh yeah, baby. Yeah, there's a lot of money to be made.
Since when? Since when, Charlie?
Since bro, October 14th to 17th, somewhere in there. So we're speaking into the future here. And the reason why I say the 17th in particular is because if you do go and take a look at some of the dates here for the next deadline on the ETF filings for spot Bitcoin, that comes here on October 17th, mainly the earliest one on October 7th. Even if they get rejected, right, there could be some positive outcomes from the next filing date, right? One positive we had from the first filing deadline was that Grayscale basically started winning their case. That was great. Now on the next one, who knows? We maybe get some other good information, but it's nice that it lines up with basically a potential 60-day cycle low. And potentially, if we do go low here, if we break down early and we go down here to 21,500, right, then I would say, boom, we're probably going to spike up and hit above $32,000 sooner rather than later. And going into next year, it's just going to be like even going into November and October, right? Or sorry, mainly November, right? It can go and just be like super, super bullish. But is that the main case? Not necessarily. ETS may not be approved either. And if that's the case, then maybe we have a shallower dump here down to 23,000, right? We get a nice move here, but that's not the end of the wave 2, right? That wave 2 might be a little bit more of a complex pattern, which would be something like this, where it just, goes around here like this, and this low being here at the end of the 60-day cycle, another pop up to the top of this range, and then one more push to the downside for the beginning of next year at either one of these 3 levels, right? And so that means, yeah, that price is going to go up here from October into November, most likely at least a decent rate here. And even if Bitcoin only went from 24,000 or 23,800 back up here to 31,000, that move alone, right? For Bitcoin, it's about like a 30% move. So for some altcoins, that might be somewhere between a double 100% move to maybe like 150% move. So a little bit more than a 2x, which is mighty nice. So if you can double your bags here going into Q4, essentially, then there might be a dump towards the end of the year. If that scenario happens, this is your best scenario for accumulating the most coins within the year of accumulation, 2023. So yeah, anything else you wanted me to go in on that or on a different thing before I unshare the screen?
No, I think that's a good explanation.